Millions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it's there. Like a splinter, driving you mad, driving you mad. Bring the ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in. Taking Neo to see her. See who? You are.
Welcome aboard, everybody. We're so happy you could join us for another episode of Higher Consciousness Radio. I'm your host, J.D. Sangster, shaman and non-denominational minister. I specialized in dealing with nefarious spirits, house cleansings, exorcisms, and stuff like that through our group, Houston Ghost Research, LLC. We operate as a free spiritual crisis intervention group. We're based in Houston, but we consult on cases all over the world through our remote viewing work. If you have a spiritual problem and you need help, please reach out through our website, houstonghost.com. Lots of good resources on that website, including a link to our book available for free through Amazon Kindle. Our co-host for this episode is Miss Lori West. She's the lead spirit medium for our group. She's available for personal consults and readings. I've known her for 15 plus years. She's bang on as a spirit medium. Never seen anybody as accurate as her. I can't recommend her enough. She's especially adept at talking with spirits, and she's a medical intuitive, so she's really good at helping diagnose mystery medical issues. You can reach her at loriwestmedium@gmail.com. We're relaunching and refocusing on the podcast this year, and we have several episodes already in the works. If you'd like to get in contact with us, we're always looking for new and uplifting stories and interesting people to talk to. Please visit the podcast for the or the website for the podcast at higherconsciousnessradio.com, or you can reach out on X at HCRadio42, HCRadio42. On today's episode, we're talking with Virginia Drake. Virginia Drake is a seasoned professional with over 35 years of experience in education, social work, counseling, consulting, and motivational speaking. Armed with a master's degree in education from Georgetown College, a teaching certificate from Eastern Kentucky University, and a BS degree in social work from Murray Kentucky University, Virginia's journey took a remarkable turn in 1998 when she experienced a miraculous healing following a major heart attack and a near-death encounter. In our conversation today, Victoria shares the profound impact this transformative experience had on her life. Intrigued by the mind, body, and spirit connection, she embarked on a 25-year journey of intensive study delving into meditation, natural healing, and the fascinating realm of quantum physics. Discover the intricate interplay of the electromagnetic field within the human body and its role in the healing process. Virginia not only shares the details of her near-death experience, but also imparts wisdom gleaned from her dedication to understanding the profound forces that shape our health and relationships. Don't miss the opportunity to explore the depths of resilience, healing, and the mind-body-spirit connection with Virginia Drake. Her website is mydivineinheritance.org. And we'll put her information up on the screen so you can see it. I'm going to actually cut to the conversation because we had so much fun talking to Victoria that we ended up just recording the pre-talk and jumping in from there. So we hope you guys enjoy the episode, and please reach out to us on YouTube or Twitter or email if you have any feedback or anything like that. We'd love to hear back from you.
And I thought, they don't realize those are perspectives of a person's life.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
So you don't know what you're getting. I got one of the worst experiences with her that I've ever had in my life because she showed me exactly what she did. She betrayed herself. She was in fear, and when she went to the king and told him what France was going to do, she created a war that was not that message was not given to her. That was not the message. But out of the fear and being in the Middle Ages, So I had that, well, it's a taint. I had a stain
That makes sense. That makes
that
sense.
and now what this is now is you're looking at all your stains.
Yeah. So would you call that, to put that in I'm really big into cross domination or cross pollination into faiths, and uh, um, uh, I lose his name. I was going to say Emerson and Thoreau, but um,
Oh, no, no, no. Those were good. I
yeah,
know
yeah,
those
no,
people.
for sure. Yeah, that was the only
Yeah,
reason I paid attention in English class
yes,
was Emerson and Thoreau.
yes, they all knew this. They all knew it, and they've lied. This is where I'm at because I think I have been an ancient teacher for a long, long time. And I was an oracle.
You strike me as that
And I
sort of
know,
soul. Who's somebody who,
yeah,
like myself, who came back to help out in any way they could. Lori
yeah. And
Lori Lee is the same way.
yeah. Well, I think this is why we are connecting. And I think it's very important that we connect. But first, we've got to connect through generations and unravel the shit that we've created from generation to generation. Because it's right in the Bible, 70 times 70.
Right, we were talking
And
about that
we're
earlier. We're right there, right?
right there. And if we don't find out that who we live in, we are God. God is within each and every one of us. I just had a conflict. When it's not a conflict, but I could feel the judgment. There's a woman who's had a near-death experience. She wanted to contact me, and she was met Jesus and God and everything. And I sent her to my thing, and she said, "Well, I didn't want to talk, didn't want to do money." And I said, first of all, let me explain. See, they had judgment about something that I do and that I do very well, that I shouldn't be charging for that. Well, let me tell you, I did not charge it for many, many, many years. They had to pay what they felt, because this is what my higher self told me. They don't value the work, and they will not receive it.
I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly. We
Yeah.
operate the same
And
way.
see,
Like,
yeah, because we've been so programmed to think that's so awful.
well,
There's a
there's
candle.
such a propensity for people to abuse that, and the gullible. You know what I mean, but there's nothing in the world wrong with even charging for your services, as long as the other person finds it valuable. Like, they've been paying water witches forever because they do what they do. You know what I mean? Oil companies pay them thousands of dollars for using
I
that
know,
talent.
because I am one, because when we were looking for water, I tried to explain to my husband, who was not a believer. Uh, I said, that is not where they're drilling, is not water. That's down here. And he just said, oh, you're a witch, whatever. But he realized, though, he had a lot of abilities. But my ex-husband and I, we had been together since the Middle Ages. He killed me in one of my lifetimes.
Oh man, so you've got some recall from that stuff too. I don't have any of
Oh,
that.
but it was great. Well, I would make love to this man, and I would feel this pain in my chest. This is where he would, I guess it's where it went
A
in right. Well, I
wound.
know it's
Yeah,
went in.
yeah, a
Yeah,
wound.
it's a wound. It's a hell of a wound. And I went to my gynecologist. I thought, God, I must have cancer there. Now, but
Right.
I think this is a big deal, because I think we need
Yeah,
to be standing out here. People are having these diseases because these are diseases they created way back here, and they don't
it's
want them to
trauma they're
break
holding
out.
on to. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to get out of the podcast. I like doing this kind of podcast. I don't want to hear about, I want to talk about this
Right.
now.
Right. Right. Right.
I've talked about my near-death experiences, all of the things. I mean, I want to talk about now, because we're in it right now.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. No, this is our excuse for talking to really interesting people, and whatever they want to talk about. Like, for a good example is like when we my group operates kind of as like a shaman training ground. I use the term shaman like real loosely. So the first thing we teach people is holographic theory, because that's the framework we use to teach everybody anything. And then
Uh,
they under
what's
what?
anonymous caller? Anonymous caller?
Oh, that's probably
Who's
Lori.
anonymous?
Me.
Hey, what's up, Lori?
Lord? Oh,
Hey there.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
hey.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I
ma'am.
can
You're
hear
coming through.
Woo! Awesome. Finally.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Lori, this is Getty slash Virginia Drake. Virginia, this is Lori. Uh, uh,
Hello.
you guys are like clone opposites of each other. Like y'all were separated at birth or something.
This is probably sister meeting, sister mother, sisters, whatever. There's that all connections. But the one I was getting to tell you, this girl got into acid really, really bad. And they called me. She's naked as a jaybird sitting right there. And she's flicking her fingers and I could see the light coming out of her fingertips. And now I always have had aura, always, but I never saw sparks out of your fingers. And I remember I thought, how do you do that? And I mean, but I was also really scared at that time in my life. I was very scared of the skills that I had. I was terrified. If you want to,
I went through that
lived in
phase too.
oh my God. But that tells you right there, we are very big lights for them to try to sniff us out, like, knock us out as much as, because I've been knocked out. I've been out 12 or 13 times.
Knocked out while in meditation?
No. Near-death experiences gone out, or, out-of-body experiences.
You're like to hear your stories. You're like the inspiration for that movie. I can't think of the name of it. Where they're Final Destination. It sounds like you've been through the ringer. It sounds like you've been through the ringer more than once.
Yeah, and I think you're right. But I think I'm also very ancient, and I do know that I am an oracle because I met myself there. Now I don't always do. If I'm trying to go in to find something in my generations, and that's what I did, is I worked for almost a year and a half just on my generations.
Just
My
looking
mother
back.
and father. Yeah, but you know what? Both of them came back in and thanked me. And I knew, because I could see the eternity of that. I saw that portal, how that unraveled, just like it does. It is the energy when you really unravel a pattern out of a generation, you can damn well feel it and you can see it go, but you also see how it just goes in the universe, because we have weaved these webs of deception.
Yes,
I'm really tired of I'm tired of it all.
Yeah. No, you're describing in like my terms and my parlance. That's like chains that people are holding on to that they don't even realize they're holding. You know what I mean? And it can absolutely be caused by something that people before you did.
Well, and they don't even, but the thing is, they're scarred so badly in the brain. They're deep scars because you can see the the rivets that will go through, and you'll see where the energy of the electricity is not going in correctly. That's what I had to do and thank God I was dyslexic, because I had to learn how to rewire myself. And I had 2 strokes and never went to the hospital. And my first one, I couldn't speak for 9 months, and I rewired my brain. But I have to do all of that to learn.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I could definitely see how a stroke would force you to reset everything. For sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Didn't even, well, I've gotten, there was 2 and they were, both of them hit at the same time. But what saved my life was the MRI, because I took all of the electromagnetic field out of the MRI and took it into my body, and I turned into light.
Oh, wow. So that had a regenerative effect for you?
Yes. It fired me up. Now, my body was very slow in getting back into an alignment, because your matter is much slower than your spirit. I mean, I came out of there in white light and they could see me. I mean, for 3 days in that hospital, people were coming into the hospital room and asking to be blessed.
Oh, you were literally glowing then for real.
Oh yeah, doctors were coming in and they would look at me and they say, well, but my friend who is a doctor, she'd just tell them, she said, you've never met anybody like this.
Yeah, Lori has a lot of stuff along those lines too.
Now, let me tell you a little story on this. If I get on a podcast, Now you see, I am exactly where I am. I mean, my speakers right there, they mess up. You can't hear me. Now that tells you right there, the energy has not
Yeah.
gelled and the two frequencies are, and now, but then I can get on one and you can feel just like you and I, and, uh, Lori and all, because when you feel it, it's resonate out. So you change the molecular structure of the room,
Oh yeah,
even
for
if we're
sure.
not, yeah, it really, I guess I'm just tired of living in the shadows.
I mean, what makes you feel like you're living in the shadows?
Because still, I haven't still feel the freedom to say what I really want to say.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, hell, I've been spat on. I've been told I was crazy.
Or
Oh yeah,
evil.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And if I found out I did marijuana, then all hell breaks loose because I'm just a druggie.
It is the devil's lettuce. It is the devil's lettuce. Uh,
And it's bad. And but I have people I'm 73. I have people my age, women, come and say, I want some of those special brownies and I want you to work with me. And they do profound experiences because they're relaxed enough
yeah,
to let go.
yeah, yeah.
Just amazing. This.
So you never formally studied hypnosis. Is that what you were saying?
I went and got a book.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, no, I watched it. I watched a couple of your videos, and the pattern you used and the language you were using sounded like somebody who had actually studied some actual like forensic hypnosis, because that's what I studied, and I recognize some of your phrasing.
Well, but I'm also a psychiatric social worker.
Okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense. You definitely
Yeah,
have a lot of the same vocabulary.
I got several degrees. So, but I used to think that I would never use those degrees. Oh, yes, I did, because I'm not using the theory. Using the experience. That's where schools went wrong. They only taught theory. They never taught experience. You would never understand what that concept meant until you experienced them both at the same time.
Yeah, definitely for reinforcement. You definitely want, especially some hands-on situational experience
I
for
was a
sure.
teacher. I was a teacher yeah. But I was also a swimming teacher, and I was a water safety teacher. And I started teaching when I was 13 years old.
So
Can you imagine?
I got that same energy growing up, right? Like you're always trying to take care of your fellow man. Like it was made very clear. Lori, I don't know if you would call this a walk-in. I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody. When I was really, really, really young, I would say probably young enough to really be able to hold my first couple of cohesive thoughts. I was very keenly aware that like I was put in this place to like there was some sort of plan in motion, and I had to go with the flow and do the right thing uh, for that thing. But like I'm not of this place. Um,
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
that
I never. I didn't want.
that was the first moment I was kind of like, oh, okay, I might not be like everybody else. So like, I would ask you guys, both you and Lori, what was the first moment that you guys had where you realized like you're not like everybody else. You might be a little bit different.
Okay, do you want me real quick?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please
for
I was
sure.
go.
in sixth grade. Yeah, I was in sixth grade, and I hear people, dead people talk to me all the time, and I always have. And I'm a remote viewer and astral traveler. Anyway, so I was in sixth grade, and I was standing outside a church waiting to go to school with my best friend, and I heard my grandpa say something to me in my head, and I know he wasn't alive. He died. In fact, that was about the same time he passed away. I don't remember what he said, but I said, "Oh, you know how you're standing there and you hear your dead grandparents talk to you or whatever?"
Yeah,
And she looked
yeah,
at me like I was crazy, and she goes, "No." She goes, "That's not normal." And that was the first moment that I knew that I was
yeah.
not normal. I was remote viewing at like 6 and 5 years old, coming home from a trip. I was in the backseat of my dad's car. We were coming back from Oregon to Southern California. And I'm kind of dozing in and out of sleep, and I'm in my mind, I'm sitting on top of my car watching all the, all the streets and everything. I said, oh, there's a liquor store where we're going to turn to go home, and all of a sudden I feel the car turn left. I said, there's a street, we're going to turn there, and we turned left, and when we turned into our driveway, I'm watching it in my mind's eye, and we had felt the bump of the driveway, and that was totally normal to me. That was just normal, but until I was about 9, I didn't think I was weird.
Yeah. Bad thing is I didn't think I was different until I was probably almost, I think I guess I was still teaching, but my first real, well, we don't even realize that we are different, but I don't think we are different. I think we're very natural. I think that's who we really are. And these people over there are just lost. But I've been lost. You've been lost. We've all been lost in our moments. But the thing about this lost stuff is I'm ready for them to find themselves. And the only way I see that what's going on, and it's like people like us getting together and really looking at feeling each other, first of all, really opening our hearts and really feeling each other. But to get back to what you asked me, it's my mother was like me, but my mother was terrified with it. She would not let me utilize it. And when it really hit hard is when my father died and I saw him walk from from his room to the bathroom, and I called my mother when she was at the house, her job, and I told her, I said, Daddy's here. And she said, don't you ever tell anybody that you ever see anything, and it was like, oh, and I mean, no, I turned it off. I cut it off. Like, I had cancer, babe. That's where thick skin. I mean, I had melanoma, I had basal cell, but that's because that's an oscillation, and it has to move. I closed it completely down.
Oh, wow.
And I said, because that you can see kids or something's happened. That's the trauma of these things, because my father almost killed us. I mean, yeah, he did die, but my father went out with a straitjacket, and that's what my mother told me. If anybody ever finds out that you can see these things or something, they'll put you in a straitjacket. That's exactly. So I lived under that guy.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Well, but I looked at this after I really woke up, and I mean, I've woke up many times, but they were glimpses. But that one in 1998 was a hit one. I mean, it was profound. There's nothing, I don't care if it makes sense to some people, because I don't give a shit anymore, because it happened to me. And there was witnesses that
lucky. My mom.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I was just saying I was really lucky. My dad was alcoholic, abusive. That's the alcohol thing you were talking about earlier. My mom was really accepting of my weirdness. In fact, I remember I was probably about 3 or 4, acting out a little teen. I remember being a little Indian boy in a previous life, and I'm telling my mom how I used to hunt and crawl around, and she goes, "Oh, you were an Indian boy." I said, "Yeah." She never ever made me sound like I wasn't.
No, my mother was terrible.
On my marbles or anything.
But we're in a Bible belt, and this is one of the worst things, because the Bible belt is very strict, because that's the devil's work, or that's witchcraft.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've been told.
I know.
Yeah, and that's what my family went after. They were telling people that and there was things happening, and they were saying they knew something was going on. They just weren't into the same frame of thought that I was, because doors would open and I could walk out and they couldn't. They think I'm really crazy, to do all this. Oh my gosh, but they're getting better. But their father was really amazing man. He was a narcissist, and this was an agreement. I was telling this to JD. This was an agreement for us to finalize that, to finally cut that thread, cut those discords, and that's right on the Bible. And the Bible is very much real. It's very much alive. You live in it.
I agree.
And if people, I mean, they're having profound experiences, but they're missing it because they don't know what profound experiences really are.
Eyes to see and ears to hear. Everybody struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody struggles.
Well, we've been meant to struggle, never to wake up to really know who we really are. This is the matrix.
It
This is
is.
exactly what the,
It is. It
oh
is.
yeah,
It's a school slash learning experience
yeah,
slash
it is.
matrix. So
Yeah.
this question is also precisely aligned for you and Lori both to see your similarities. Um, Virginia, what was your first animal communication slash telepathy experience? When did you realize you could talk to critters and they could talk back to you? And when
Well,
you were a real life Disney princess?
what? I was.
I mean, I think that's pretty much the definition. I don't know what your singing voice is like, but I asked that
Oh,
because
okay.
Lori does a lot of that too. So you guys have a lot of
Okay.
overlap there.
Well, what the first one is because I'm an only child. I was my mother's seventh miscarriage, so I was never going to have any siblings.
Oh,
So what
God.
they gave me was cats, dogs, parrots, anything to keep me happy. So I learned how to talk to my dog, Tammy, first. Tammy, my mother had the same ability. My mother would call Tammy if I was up at the baseball field. We were, back then, I'm talking 60s here. We had to make up our own stuff and have fun doing it.
When you had to
And
play
I
outside for
remember,
real.
oh yeah, my mother, well, you didn't get Kool-Aid. My mother said, get it out of the faucet.
Yep. The hose outside.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
but
the
and my
hose.
mother was the dog. That's how she recognized me. And she would call Tammy in, and Tammy literally would say, "Jenny, Mom's calling,"
Oh,
and
wow.
I would listen. Well, but listen, I thought everybody did that. Then I became, because this was at this time, this subdivision was just new. I had two veterinarians, so they taught me the true veterinarians. Both of them, they started their own clinic, and I ended up being a vet tech at the age of 12.
Oh, wow. That's like a dream job for a 12-year-old for sure.
Oh my God, that is crazy.
Yeah, and I didn't know that.
Veterinarians are amazing.
Right?
No,
I grew up in a veterinary hospital too. My grandmother was a tech in a hospital. I spent every summer with her, and I was in the veterinary hospital every summer with her.
You
That's
don't
crazy.
really take in the savoring of your life until you really look at it through the soul level of how well you were prepared to understand. Even though you're pissed off on some of that stuff,
Yeah.
and you're really mad at it, but then you back and it reflects back and you think, wow, I needed a slap in the ass.
And the miraculousness of
You
the
know,
circumstances that are manipulated to make the things happen that need to happen.
oh,
Yeah.
you can't make that up. You can't make that shit up. I don't care what anybody says. There are so many profound experiences that I tell this one called baked beans. Now, when I had my own podcast, and I had people that were coming in every month, I did a whole thing. I had a friend that was coming, and I had I catered everything. I'm tired. I don't want to cook. We're going to work all weekend. I'm going to cater it in. So I catered it in. And I remember I was standing in my kitchen. I said, baked beans. I should have gotten baked beans. Oh, I should have called them. You're kind of beating yourself up. Then I said, never mind. I said, and then I took a real fast, survey of, I see the beans. I can do that. Okay. Yeah, I can do it like that,
Right.
because it's like, boom, 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 boom. Now, I walked in to get my catering in, and they hand me a plate. Like the dishes, like all of the others, and it was hot. And I said, I didn't buy anything in hot. I had sandwiches and stuff. And I said, what is this? They said, baked beans. I'll take them.
Right.
I walked out of there, and this guy said, are you okay? And I said, yes. I said, because I did not ask. I stood in that kitchen. I already aligned in my mind that I could fix it. No, that means you're so in that the universe already pre-thought it
For sure.
for you.
You manifested your own baked beans. If I could only do that with lottery
Yes.
tickets, I'm telling you.
Well, I had people who called me and they asked me if I could do, I said, I'm not allowed to do that.
Yeah, no, that's always the answer I get too. Is that's not you're breaking the rules. Don't play that game.
Well, first of all, we don't want
Manifesting?
money. Yeah. Yes.
I do it all the time.
You
And
lottery
when you get a
lottery
job
tickets?
offer,
Is
it's
that
not
where your
good,
cruises
working on.
keep coming from?
No, but I manifested a brand new kitchen that $18,000. 2 weeks, 3 weeks manifesting this beautiful kitchen in my mind, exactly what I wanted. And 2-3 weeks later, $18,000 started going in my mailbox.
Yeah. Okay. But
Yeah.
that's how that was chosen to give it to you. You asked for it. It had to show you up. So you got that.
The
instead.
universe found its
It
way.
could yeah. It doesn't always come in. I mean, I've had some really strange things that have come in, you know, that I mean, and what I love about it is I don't want to know. I just put it out there, divine order, divine timing, divine plan, make it easy. You know it better than I do. Just make sure that I recognize
As
it.
long as it's within your will, this is the direction I want to go. Let me know how I can be a good servant.
Yeah, I want to be, it's so, and when
Awesome.
you're in flow, you flow. I mean, it's so easy.
Okay, so I have a challenge for you guys. This is another overlapping experience for both of you. So, Virginia, we'll let you go first. What's the most interesting place you have ever remote viewed? You might have spilled the beans a little bit on that on a previous
Ooh,
conversation, but I think I know what Lori's answer is going to be, and it's going to be really interesting. So, what's the most interesting
that would be
place or places you've remote viewed?
Skinwalker, Skinwalker. Uh, and how it happened is I don't know what it was. Somebody, I don't know if I was had been on a session. I don't know if sometimes they ask me questions like that. And you know, I don't usually pay attention to it, but I don't remember why. But I was sitting there and I started looking up from Skinwalker. And the next thing I'm doing is I'm looking at it in the computer and I went right in and I was there. And so I just started walking through it and I thought, this is a base. This is not what they're saying at all. And I could feel all the lines. I could feel the boundaries. That is really, there's a lot of radiation in there. There's a lot of things that go off, but that's a base. They're doing something in the tunnel of that. So
For Skinwalker Ranch, did you see any critters that you might actually attribute to be the proverbial species of Skinwalker?
No, but I have seen a Skinwalker because I was at an Indian reservation.
Oh, really? I've never had the pleasure, but I've done lots of research. I want to have a Skinwalker hunter on the podcast. What was your experience with said Skinwalker?
Well, and I'll tell you how I did it. And it wasn't what people think it is. I watched Coast to Coast. Are you familiar with Coast to Coast?
Love Art Bell and George Norrie both.
I loved him too, but this wasn't Art Bell, but he had this guy. I guess it was the one that is still doing, what's his name?
George Norrie, I think, is still doing it.
And he had brought in an Indian man he had been in the military. And I mean, let me tell you, he scared me so bad.
Wow, really?
I felt it. And he said,
yeah.
You are trained to anything and it knows. And it's like witches can do the same thing. I mean, if you call their name I just had an incident with that anyway. People don't understand. You don't say names.
Power
you don't tell people
right.
that they'll think about it. And then the next thing they got it coming in the damn house. So, and I was just sitting there and he scared me so bad. It appeared in the room.
Oh wow! It appeared in the room.
It was very woofy. It's very woofy looking, but I never felt like it was going to. I think it was there psychologically and non-physical. It was more in a spiritual, So I knew it couldn't just lash out at me, but it was all through this house.
Oh, wow.
And I remember I just leaned over and I turned off the radio like that. And I thought, I'm not ready to experience this.
You looked at it and it looked back at you. I've had that happen many, many times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and also I have seen the red eyes because when I was a little girl, the red eyes would come out of my closet.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen anything that is a red eye, but I've heard of that manifestation lots. As a kid, man, that would just be terrifying. That would be terrifying.
Well, now let me tell you, all I have to usually say if I have a new client's coming in, I will get this message. Ask them about the red eyes.
Oh
And I'll
yeah,
turn around and look at and say, and lean in to them and then say, have you ever seen the red eyes? And they turn black, pale, just pale. Because it's frightening. They're very reptilian. It's really different.
do you feel, are they in the spirit world or are they in third dimension?
Well, I've seen Mattises, ants. I mean, these are things inside of me because now, first of all, you got to understand your mind is trying to trick you on everything that you're doing. You're going
For
through all
sure.
these different spiritual experiences. So I remember the first time I had the cockroaches that came up through, and I could feel them crawling through, and
Goodness.
and then they came out of my mouth, and they did go into the. They did go in energetic,
Goodness. I
but
would have lost my
those are
cookies.
well, no, let me tell you, that's why I said I stayed in sometimes 16 and 17, 18 hours a day just to prepare this because this is all in. Everybody's got this. And because these are things that you are psychologically putting in. Now, how you're going to put it in, I don't know. But I know how I did it, insects and spiders. And I was in a lot of webs, a lot that
Oh
I had to clear energetically through.
man,
Snakes also.
man. Lori, I wonder what you're gonna pick. I'm gonna redirect to you. What was your most interesting? Which one are you gonna pick? Remote view.
It was my trip to the moon. You know that.
Oh,
I'd actually, yeah, it was in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and I was pretty good at, reading my body and going traveling around. So I said, oh, I'm just going to go to the moon. So I went to the other side of the moon. This was before the internet, but all the pictures. They
yes.
still had pictures, but they weren't public, okay? So I get over there, and on the other side of the moon, I'm floating around, and I'm looking down, and what are those round buildings? So I look down, and they look like just domes, like a big dome and a couple smaller domes, the compound. I thought, oh, that's really cool. So I started looking in the windows of these domes, and one of them housed foliage, trees, and plants. I guess that's how they created their oxygen.
Oh, wow.
And another one of them, there was a sea life. There were dolphins and whales in there. They were learning.
They were
doing too that they were learning telepathy. I'm teaching telepathy by using dolphins and the whales.
Okay.
But then I thought, I'm going to go inside the compound. So I popped myself inside, and I'm walking down this hallway, and I see this room to my right. And I walk in, and there's one of those like old carpets you can tell have been walked on, like the flat carpets, and it was kind of grungy and sofa off to my left, and a TV in front of me, and off to the right over here there was an armory too, where they had grenades and guns like on shelves, like a bookshelf. And so I went over to the left more and kind of followed around, and there was a door that went out the other side of this room. So I came in to the right, and I ended up exiting over to the left, and I saw a hallway, and it looked like a hospital hallway, and it had lines on the walls, kind of leading down different hallways. You could follow the lines to whatever department you wanted to go to. And I got busted. Some guy goes, what are you doing here? And I popped right out. Like a slingshot back to my body. It was the craziest thing, but so much detail.
Uh-huh.
And that was such a good experience. There's been 100,000 more, but that's the most prolific one. And then it was later when the pictures came out that I saw the buildings on the back of the moon. I thought, oh my God, that's what I saw. So,
yeah.
there you go.
Oh, you saw pictures from
from
NASA that matched your what you saw? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Years later, I saw pictures. I thought, oh my God, that's what it is. And they don't even know what's in those buildings except if they're already there.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Virginia, I think you were saying something about you poked your head in at the Vatican, and you mentioned you saw some crazy stuff going on there, especially with the opening the portals. You care to?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yes.
What's going on with that?
Well,
Because I know what I saw in the videos, and it was really far out weird.
well, he's scared.
Clearly.
Didn't you? I mean, I know those men with no ears in the back. How come they open that door when there was supposed to be nobody in that door? And these two men open the door and they don't have ears.
Yeah, for sure. Something looked really weird with the video, for sure, and he looked terrified.
Well, he should be, because they're probably dabbling in front of the most ancient thing is, and you knew that the queen has a dragon, so they have held on to these things. These really are real things. And now what I have understood, because when I went in, I was going to the catacombs. And this is so funny because I stayed in the catacombs when I was listening to Lori's thing. It was like I had a video game, camera going like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and because it's like in a video game. The more I think about it, it's like a video game. Now, sometimes you have color, sometimes you don't. But you with that, this is where it's so cool, is that you also get to feel it. So you already understand the whole picture without trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you get the emotional content stream at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So but that's a whole different way of learning and living. This is what the kind of schools we all should be teaching right there.
So yeah, speaking of that, so we talked a little bit about I mentioned the word technique earlier. So and I noticed in your meditation video, we would consider that in our vernacular what you described as I think you were talking about the relaxation or the light coming down and that sort of stuff. We would refer to that as a technique in our jargon. So different meditations have different techniques, that sort of thing. So, what would you say your technique would be in that parlance for initiating remote viewing? You just shift your attention inward and then think about where you want to go, or do you need an anchor to? I often find if I have like something that has the imprint of a person or a link or a picture, if I can have a picture with somebody looking at their eyes at the camera, man, I can connect to that person in no time flat. So like,
Oh yeah, with a picture.
yeah, so like,
Well, that's why
what works for you?
Well, first of all, when you say technique, I understand what you mean, but when you're really in this process, you breathe differently. You become a different body. This is the hardest thing for me to teach people, is because it is when you become aware of who you really are, you don't have to breathe. You don't have to have lungs. You don't have anything. You're just spirit.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I would call that if I were explaining that to one of my students or one of my people, we call that drawing your attention inward. So
Okay.
we focus entirely on like just bringing your attention inward. You pull up that little,
And becoming
you pull up that little
very
TV
fine.
screen in your brain and you tune
Yeah.
into that.
But you're really all inside of your body.
100%.
I lay inside.
I agree.
Beg your pardon?
What were you saying, Laura?
I said I agree. It's all inside your body. Yeah, it's starting inside.
It's like I just become my own self, and I just start stretching my body and become melted. I just go into particles.
So you've got a really good sense of awareness of who you like. This is not your meat suit. And I teach that to people. It's hard for them to understand like what you see in the mirror is not really who you are. You really are this entirely different being that's powering the meat suit. So it sounds like you have a perfect grasp of that. So you got that picture real clear. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me for sure.
But it's really what did it was my mirror work. Looking in the mirror, eyeball to eyeball, looking at my and sucking it right in. And I mean, my soul would just make me turn. It would make me look. It would raise my hands.
A lot of
That's the connection.
occult work uses mirrors. Lori's got a couple of meditations for mirrors and protection that are really really useful too. You said something else that you didn't touch on in the Vatican. You mentioned you saw some demons chained up out there.
Yeah,
So
there
what do you
were.
think that
Well,
was about?
whenever they, whatever they're getting ready to unleash, they're going to unleash the supernatural already. Which, if you got, well, didn't you hear the three towers struck for lightning? I don't know if that was, did you hear that? It was the
No.
Washington Monument. It was the Capitol. And it was, where else was it? In, was it might be, but it, three major strikes all together. That's a big deal. That is a ritual. That is an occult ritual that they brought down through the ethers and brought them down. Now that's three all in once. That's a hell of a hit.
Yeah, that
They're really much on it. They're opening up things I don't think people will not understand if they don't get out of their mind.
So do you feel like any of that is connected with the plasmoids that we're seeing everywhere above the country in the skies?
Oh yeah. Well, we live in plasma anyway.
Right.
And see,
I
yeah.
love that
And
you
so
said
if you
that.
really look, you're starting to really bubble. It's bubbling up because it's bubbling up. Look at a lot of the electricity and what are the emotions. You're bubbling things up to create what? Violence. It looks very violent. So I don't know if we, the people like us, and that's Lori, you, me, who all your group is, and I've got groups, and bringing in, because it doesn't matter if we're physically with each other, just that we come up and show together in oneness. Not about, let's all talk about this, because I don't think we have time for words. I think we better feel it.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
This is Babylon.
I definitely
This is not,
there's some Revelations level stuff going on right now. And it's crazy to see it on
this is not
CNN.
my first play though. I feel this. I feel exactly, and I made a choice to come back, not once, many times, to change my life. And that's what I've done. I still am a bitch and I still cuss and I still do all of that. But I'm going to tell you
Love
something.
that.
I beg your pardon?
I said I was worried about me slipping an F word out here and there because that's my second language.
No. I love that word because the word says exactly, because to get people's attention, I used to stand on stage and say it. What the fuck's wrong with you all? And they'd all just, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, one of my favorite
You know?
jokes is when somebody says, "What would Jesus do?" I would be like, "Cuss out the Pharisees, overturn the tables, and chase everyone around with whips" is an appropriate answer in some situations. So be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I've had profound. I was St. Peter's in New York in the 70s, and I had a profound experience in there because we went in there just to, because that's a generator. If I knew what it was back then, but that's a generator. That is such, the sounds and it. But I remember I walked out and they've got priests over here and they're doing, taking money for rosaries and everything. And I remember all of a sudden, Jesus is in me. I mean, it's like, you see, it happened back then and it's happening right now. And I walked over and said, this is right out of the Bible. What do you think Jesus did?
That's hilarious. Literally possessed by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I felt every bit of that, his ancientness of it, and how I felt right then, right now, in presence. And it feels the same, just different environment.
I can appreciate that. I can definitely appreciate that. The few times I've been able to connect with the Christ consciousness like that in that way, it's crazy how the doors of perception get slammed open, but afterwards you can't really appreciate it and you can't put it into words. You know what I mean?
Well, there is no,
There's
oh
not.
my
There's
God,
not. It's like trying
no,
to describe eternity.
Well, when I met God, when I crossed over, God was just white light. I mean, a light that I have never experienced, but it spoke. And I mean, it was an intelligent being, and it did not have a figure or anything, but you were humbled by it, but you knew how much you're loved. And it wasn't like, oh, I think I'm so glad. The thing it said to me was this: how did you serve me? And it was
Preach.
like, ooh, shit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about because I'm a great teacher. Oh my God, I was a great driver. I followed all the rules. It had nothing to do with that.
Yep. Yeah. Were you a good person or not
Thank
really?
you.
Didn't even
Yeah.
factor into it in my estimation.
Well, I got thrown back. I mean, it was like I was there and you didn't listen.
So let's talk a
I
little bit about
actually
that.
did.
Like that's how you got thrown on my radar. You had a heart attack, and that threw you. I guess you would call it a near death experience. That's kind of the
Yes.
general label.
Yeah.
So, and then
Yeah.
take us back to that moment. Can you describe like what happened? I know you had a heart attack, but when you realized that you weren't you and you were having a non-ordinary reality experience, is the shaman word for it?
Oh, it it's real when you start describing it to people if they've never had any out of body experiences. They just kind of go like,
You're batshit crazy.
yeah, well, that girl, she's too many times in and out. Well, I was but I'd always been in and out. So when you got to understand, I already had some understanding of how to go in and out because I wasn't even, when I was in the 5th grade, I was out of my 5th grade. I came in one day, was sitting in my thing, and I thought, what is that on the chalkboard? Well, it was multiplication. I didn't even know what it was because I was gone. My body was there, but I wasn't there. So I've been in and out.
Oh, so
So
you
when
you
I
were
was
having
looking
like
at
forceful
this,
remote viewing sessions,
oh
basically.
my God, yeah, I deja vu was everywhere. I've been everywhere. I mean, I would stop when I was a little girl, and I hated to go to the hospitals because I could see dead people.
Yeah, me too. It makes me very uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't now because when they come in
You
now,
know what to do with them, but as a
it's the
kid, it's
best thing.
terrifying.
Oh shit! Yeah, especially everybody's telling these dead people, and they're walking right by you, and I'm thinking that ain't dead. I mean, telling my mother too. My mother said, "Don't tell anybody. Don't even let anybody know." So I was always pushed down because she was so afraid that, especially in the '60s, But you know what? I learned a lot uh, in this when my father got melanoma at the age of 11. I was 11 years old. I watched him die from 11 to 16. And this is why I saw what the real truth was in this world about the medical field. They bartered for my father because my father in the 60s, he had $100,000 bill in one hospital in
Goodness,
1968.
goodness.
My, he was so worried. It makes me want to cry because all he worried about is there's no way, not in the 60s, nobody would have, not man, so it's, magazines.
Right. Yeah, that's an
And he's in
unattainable
the,
amount of money.
oh yeah, I mean, what I had to look at with this, when you go into a soul level, is I had to look at what his soul was bantering to trying to figure it out. Well, what they did is the University of Kentucky came in very quickly and offered him a deal that they couldn't refuse. They paid for all of the hospital if they would let them experiment on him.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Wow.
What kind of experiments?
because he was melanoma. They never seen it before in the 60s.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I mean, that turned out to
My
be a
father
win-win.
was a hero. My father did something that a lot of it, now this is the pressure of that $100,000 bill, knowing that he sold his soul
Yeah.
or his life for us. Well, now as a child, still makes me cry. You don't see that. You see
Yeah.
the trauma, but when you come back,
Yeah.
because I was mad to the universe for a long, long time. I said, how can you put a little girl through the shit that I had to go? My father almost killed us. They put him at UK, took out his back of his brain, to one of his eyes and the palate of his mouth.
Goodness.
And then we had to, I saw, but that's what I want you to understand. I was traumatized all my life by this. I lived in trauma. I had almost been raped, all of this shit, because when you got this kind of trauma that is registering, all over you, it's like static. So you draw all of the shit that is going to come in, static wise for you. But I did not understand that. Now, I didn't understand that until 1998 when I had my heart attack. But it took me a year to even digest what had happened to me, what I had witnessed. And then everybody was talking. The grass talked, the bees talked, the sky talked. I remember we had a farm. And Ron said, I said, well, you don't need to mow. Just go ask the grass. They'll stop. Then he did this number. Oh my God. And I said, yeah, I mean, I've got hawks coming down and weaving down. We're so glad to see you, Jenny. We're so glad to see you. Oh, it's so good. And I'm going like this. Okay. And then I thought, because I was only there 3 days, but this has gone on ever since. And I saw sunflowers singing for me.
That's awesome.
Dancing. Well, that is the world we should be living in.
It really is. It really is.
They've been trying to tell us. No, but see, they know we can't walk over those boundaries because we've been so programmed. Not the minute you walk over one of those boundaries, you get it's severe. And this, I know that Lori will understand. You'll get a severe headache and a shock, because those are boundaries that are set in there for you never to go over it.
Well, why is that? Who do you feel set those boundaries?
The overlords.
As in,
and I would think that
part of God's law, like that's the part of the separation.
No, definitely they're not in the divine. I think, to be honest, and I can say this very openly and honestly because I'm free. I think I'm one of them. Because I am, if you look in the mirror, and I have been on stage and they have seen my reptilian dragon face. I know it has it. I know it exists because I was almost raped 3 times and 3 men saw this and
your animal form, and then they noped out.
And I'm a dragon. But also I come from an ancient lineage of dragons. They're not going to tell you that we do exist, but we do exist. They can't tell us. So that's why. And I can say that to you all because I usually can't say this. I don't usually say this kind of stuff, but I'm really tired. That's who I am. I cannot fight it. I won't fight it anymore. That's who I am.
Yeah, no, that's just a normal Tuesday to us. I totally get where you're coming from, for sure. Lori, I don't know if this is something you want to share, but I feel like Virginia would be insightful. You want to share? Do you feel up to sharing, or when you realized you were a walk-in?
Oh wow!
I was at the end of an abusive marriage. He was cheating on me and had hit me and sat on me and blah 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 blah. Anyway, so I got this really really bad headache. Severe. I couldn't even escape them. I couldn't take enough aspirin to get rid of it. So I went into the bathroom and I laid on the bathroom floor in the dark on the cool floor and I just passed out. And when I woke up, I felt completely amazing. Didn't feel different. I just felt completely amazing. And that night when he tried to hurt me again, he had me pinned down on the bed with both my hands pinned down and he slapped me across the face and spat in my face. I worked a hand loose and I punched him right in the fucking nose. Sorry, I had to say that. I had to. Right in the nose, blackened both his eyes. That son of a bitch had to go to work the next day with 2 black eyes and explain to people how he got them. And next week, I had packed my stuff and I was out of there, and that was the end of that, and I knew I was different. And everything turned around. No longer a victim. No longer a victim.
That's it. That's what mine came into. No more victims. Well, because my husband was a narcissist. Yeah.
Mine is too, but I got it.
You had to have that man, and I had to have the worst one too. And I even said to the universe one day, I said, you really had to pick the best one, didn't you?
And he never laid a hand on me in anger, so I have to say that. But,
Oh,
he's
no,
always got to be right.
yeah. Ron never did either. What he did is he destroyed every bit of my mind. He stripped me. I'm the one that had, well, I was under domestic violence after I left them. And my sons, I didn't even get to see one son for almost 27 years. But you know
Goodness.
what? It was meant to be that way because I would everything, when you really look at the real truth in it, they had to be out of my life because first of all, that was the first thing that they are going to be is attacked. And when I first started doing this, I was being attacked on a regular basis. And this is what my higher self said. It's better to be way away from them so you will never attract anything to them because that would be your weakest link. And it would be my
That's
sons.
always been one of my
So,
big fears too in doing any sort of work with this sort of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Because when you're
Yeah, what's
diving
funny
in,
is,
yes.
What were you saying, Laura? You broke up.
oh no, I was just going to say, with this whole walk-in thing, and there's such a close energetic match of who you were and who you are, the two souls. They carry on the same soul, but that's about the same time that I started doing the remote viewing and the healing and looking in bodies and telling people what's wrong with them. All of that changed. All of that started after the walk-in experience.
Yeah. Do you know who it is?
No.
You don't. Has it given you not any insight at all?
No, it's me. I took over that.
Right.
That's all I can explain is that I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
It's a personality, and you're out of that. You had one personality that's no longer there. It's this one. But can you not feel the two differences when they're?
Oh yeah, I can totally feel the differences for sure because they came out a complete bitch. If that makes sense.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, because there is a lot of energy that goes in and out of that, and I just I didn't. So yeah, I get it, but maybe really grounding. See, I've had people who have been walk-ins, but people ask me the same time all the time, are you a walk-in? I knew I wasn't.
Yeah, I was weird
I
from
knew I
get-go.
came
I
in.
was weird from get-go.
Yeah, I never even, now I could go in and out of my body, but I didn't consider that, like coming out, coming back. I had to go through the plasma to get back in. So, yeah.
Wow.
What?
Well, that's how I figured about plasma is there is a definite definition. Well, it's a texture. I don't even know how to explain it because you don't use it with words. You use it with what you feel with it.
Does
Like
it crackle?
Well, now I get
when you're walking
crackles.
through?
If I'm coming up and I'm breaking out some blocks, it'll crunkle. It'll like what I remember when they used to have, you put it in your mouth and it was pop rocks.
Pop rocks.
Pop
Yep.
rocks.
Yep.
Yes.
I would get those popped out inside my body and in my brain.
Wow.
Now I've gone deep. But it's not that I did it because I wanted to learn. I stayed in this experience for 5 years before I ever let anybody knew what was really going on. I just practiced. Jesus came in. I'd had different teachers that would come in. I had some really profound experiences, folks. You have no idea. That they would come in, they would talk to me, and I would fight with some of them. Some of them would not look normal. They would look like aliens, but they'd be in my room and I would fight them. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life.
You mentioned,
but I did
you
it.
mentioned one of your first experiences with actually meeting Jesus in your NDE video, and I thought that was really insightful. It was something about why did Jesus appear exactly as he did to you, as he did on your bulletin board, and he gave you a very insightful answer.
Wasn't that profound?
Yes, I found that very
I mean,
profound.
it's so simple because anything he would say was so simple.
Yeah.
And I would think, I remember when the Spirit of God came into my house and I was in really a deep meditation and it came in and you felt it because you can feel when the Holy Spirit comes in, there is a whiff, sometimes it could be a smell, sometimes, but came in and went, G-O-D. And I thought, ooh, buckle up. This is going to be,
Right, right.
because, so, and it was, and then this beautiful voice came down and whispered, said, all I am is this, goodness over doubt.
Hmm.
And I thought, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's profound. That's profound.
It is. I mean, when I would say it, people go, well, that was really nice. I said, no, that's not really nice. That's profound. And that's when Jesus stayed with me and he showed me that everything was in the Bible. There's a Bible within the Bible. And he would, that day, and I've got that Bible. I'll show you the Bible if you have. This was profound. This was the Bible can you see
Yes,
it?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's the Bible. He had it in just like this. And he said, there's a Bible within the Bible. Dive in. And it turned into water and I dove into it.
So what would you
Wow.
say the lessons are that you saw in the Bible?
Oh my God, they were profound. It's uh, the simplicity of the Bible. This is what it taught me is you take everything, all the numbers, all of the names, everything. All you have to do is what was the lesson?
Yes, ma'am. I could see that for sure. That's all he wants you to
Yeah.
take out of
Well,
it.
what was Yeah, you don't have to do
Wow.
anything, but what is the lesson? The lesson is right now with you. What is the lesson? With all three of us, what is the lesson?
Hmm.
I kind of know mine. My
Well,
lesson is for my whole life is let go. That's my
Yeah,
lesson.
but we're looking at a collective. Three souls sitting in the same space. It would be quantum because we're in particles now. So what is the lesson?
I'm not sure what the lesson is yet. It was definitely Providence that threw your vibration in our direction, without doubt, for sure. I think I'm not sure quite what the lesson is at this point.
We're all one part of a whole.
Go deeper.
Mhm.
Go down to your soul. Go down to your soul and lay in that and ask it, what is the lesson?
So one of the things you talked about earlier was you were a Catholic educator for a long time, right? What it sounded like you became disenchanted with that for a while.
Oh, oh my God. Well, I was married to this man for almost 30 years, but when I was into my marriage of 27 years, after I had my near-death experience, this was probably about a year after I came back, and I'm still having profound experiences. I'm having visitation. We're having people now nobody's seeing this but me. So now I can't tell anybody this shit because nobody believes me. They think they're all coming together, trying to get together because I didn't have enough oxygen to the brain and my heart that I'm probably not well. And they're looking at an asylum. I'm serious.
Goodness.
Oh, oh yeah, but not my higher self. My soul would jump out of my body and go down and listen to what they were going to do to me. It was the most profound thing. But so what was I saying? Bring me
Cat,
back, bring me back.
what disillusioned you from being a Catholic educator?
Oh, well, I was into it for about a year, and I was sitting on the toilet, and this is exactly the truth. I was sitting on the toilet, and this man walked through my door, and he was a priest. And I recognized him. His name was Father Woods. Now, why I recognized him is because I saw him in a picture, because that was the very famous Father Woods that they came to their house every Wednesday. I mean, they had Ron and him had a connection.
Oh, so as a
Yeah,
spirit, he walked in
Ron.
on you.
Yeah, he walked in. He was all dressed up and everything. I recognize. Now, I'm in the toilet. Now, he is telling me that I've been married to this man for 27 years. I'm a psychiatric social worker. I'm intuitive enough, but I'm going through my own shit. So I missed a lot of this other stuff because I'm trying to figure out what's going on with me.
For sure.
So he sits there, and he was standing there, and then he gives me the video. He said, I can't know what the first thing he said. I can't move forward because Ron hasn't forgiven me. I said, whoa. Now, we never spoke voices. We spoke telepathically.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was telling me, because it's so much clearer when they tell it telepathically. The words are just...
Yeah, you get everything. You get everything.
Yeah, you get the whole understanding. So he said, I can't move forward because... I said, because what? And then he said, I want to show you. He showed me what he did.
Oh, goodness.
And I mean, now, this is why I got really mad at God a lot of times, because I got put into situations. Now, that is my husband. I am a psychiatric social worker that works with sexual abuse.
Right.
You could not. I mean, and he's given me the rundown. You don't think I'm not feeling every bit of that? And then I thought,
Goodness.
and then all of a sudden it was like, this is what Ron is, the way he acts. Ron didn't like me to get fat. He didn't like my hair to grow short. I didn't get short hair because of the priest.
Right. That makes sense.
See, I didn't think there was something wrong with me. It was him, but I've been living for 27 years under a lie that I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah,
you're talking about
he's just responding to the trauma and probably doesn't even realize why he feels that way.
Oh, no. Well, when I confronted him, well, this is what the priest said. He showed me what he did and everything. He said, you got to help me. And I said, whoa. They already think I'm nuts. They already think. I mean, I'm dealing with this spirit. And I said, I know this game because I've given them information. Then they look at me and they look at me. I said, they think I'm crazy. And so he says, I'll provide something for you. Well, I didn't know what that meant. So about 4 or 5 days later, I have not, after I've had this near-death experience in 1998, I couldn't look at the news. I couldn't look at the newspapers. I couldn't look at anything that was non in the reality of what I was living in. And that is an illusion. All of that was illusional. So I'm living in a reality that nobody else is living in. And this is what happens. This is why people leave. But I was sitting there and I went to the bathroom, everything with the bathroom, but it's got water in it. And I opened the paper up in my eyes. This is why I know that when spirit is like sometimes going like this, went like that, I almost nudged my face down. And this little bitty article about these two priests that were being sued from the Catholic Church of over 200 somebody victims.
Wow.
And I went, oh my God. And like this came back and I just looked at Ron and I said, I think you need to look at this. And I think you need to understand, because see, then it was in black and white. Okay. Right. I love the way the universe does it for you. So Ron looked at it and I mean, all of a sudden it was like he went into a, I don't know, a stare or what. It was almost robotic. And he just walked, and I watched him across the room, and he went in to get into the living room. That's where our computer was. And he went in there and typed. And I thought, so then he comes back with 5 pages of everything that happened to him.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
looking at that. I'm looking at every bit of it. I'm going, oh my God, it was a pedophile. Oh my God, he was a pedophile. You know, I knew he was because he'd already shown me this, but seeing it in black and white, man. And then Ron and I I had to train him. I had to take my husband and rewire him of what had happened. And the funniest thing is everybody just loved his mother, but he hated his mother inside of himself. That's why he hated me. Because everybody loved their mother. He hated his mother because he felt like his mother had betrayed him when he was bringing in that priest. But I told Ron, I said, Ron, you never told anybody. He said, you think I'm going to tell anybody?
Oh, goodness.
He's exactly right. In the 60s.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
Oh, well, poor guy, but that poor guy had a lot of opportunities, and he chose to go after me and tell everybody that I was crazy. But he did get $100,000 out of that deal.
Out of the church, yeah.
But I told him, I said, I wouldn't ever sold my soul for that.
So you mentioned something.
But see, he did.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said he didn't know the value of his soul. So that's why.
So you, along those lines, you mentioned something about the Jesuits earlier, and my ignorance is going to shine flags here. I know Jesuit is a term that's loosely associated with something to do with the Catholic Church, but can you educate me on like what that is and why they're not so good, or why we should be concerned?
Well, you should be concerned. You should be concerned about solidarity too. That is the real secret society that's in it's in the underneath the Vatican. They are so secretive you will never even know they were there. Now, the Jesuits, which is now the Pope that's in the Vatican, they haven't had a Jesuit on the Pope seat for over 600 years. Now he's on it. So we've already had a change. There's been an evil cardinals. Everything's been reversed out. And he's evil. I don't care because he's already been he should have gone to jail with children. But what this all comes down to is Satanism. And what it is anything against God. They are trying to taint, make but look what they're doing to the atmosphere. They're making what was beautiful and creative so everybody will see nothing but, so we've got to imagine a new world that we create. They cannot get in.
I don't know. They've got some pretty deep bank accounts. They've got some pretty deep bank accounts.
Oh, yeah. But it's not even, if you want to know the truth, what we've got, it can't be touched by money or precious things in the world of man, because that's in the world of man. We live in a different world. If we don't start stepping into that world and really learning to be comfortable in that world, we are going to get sunk again. But I'm not, because I already know I'll get out because I know how to weave it in and out. And I'm light. So if you're light, and you really are enjoying what you came in here to do and not worry about all the shit they're trying to throw at you. And that's why we got weather going on. There's so much. They're hitting everybody they can to put them into a state of fear.
So where I know this might be a little bit of a tangent, but where do the Freemasons fit into this? Because that was something you had brought up earlier, and I'm just really entirely ignorant on that.
Okay, well, first of all, who is? Your father?
Husband was.
Oh, well,
my husband was.
Yeah. Oh, did he get out of it?
Yes, he did. He said there were practices he didn't agree with in his heart, so he left.
Well,
he wouldn't go into any detail.
Oh, well, that's exactly what they're not. That's not God that they're doing. They're doing ancient rituals all the way back to Egypt. They're doing all this Egypt stuff. And it also is magic. And they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I've seen some transcripts of their rites. They're definitely doing some ritual magic for sure.
Well, the Jesuits
got the book.
Well, what it is, what I learned, and a lot of this comes in from spirit, but I started looking at Jesuits, and I'll send you to the Jesuit oath. That's the one that knocked me backwards when they say the things they say about who we are and that we're just like animals and that, we really are worthless. We're the worthless eaters. And I'm thinking, what? Well, that's what the whole thing comes down to but they will lie. They will cheat. They'll do anything because they don't have the same scruples and they don't care about us. I mean, they really don't. And we've got to come to the reality they do not care. Biden was a Jesuit and Trump is a Scottish Rite, just like Hillary. They're all on the game and in a party, but didn't get invited. So we better start looking at, because they know the magic. Look at Trump, how he does all the symbology. And I'm not a Trumper, and I am not a Bidenman. I am not parties because I don't live in the world of man. But if you understand how the world of man works, then you will understand how to get out of it.
They're both equally.
They tell you
They're
exactly.
both equally evil and full of shit, in my opinion.
Oh,
you can't trust either
yes.
side.
I mean, no, because they don't care. They're having. This is the way I see it. They made Biden so bad, so awful. And then the dumb clown that they put on there, because they made people say, oh my God, please give me Trump. Because they knew that they wanted the majority, because they needed the frequency of those people. They don't need our words. They need our frequency because we are loose. They feed off of us.
Yeah,
and it makes me mad.
I look at Trump as the head Cheeto in charge.
Well, really, he's a puppet just like everybody else. He's just a character. They're all actors, all of them. And Shakespeare said it so eloquently, and I've got to meet him in another time. I remember him saying, because that wasn't him who wrote that either, but he's talking about it. He's telling you the truth. Go look at his work. The three witches standing at the hill, welcoming everybody in. The illusion. I mean, oh my God, it's so easy.
I can get behind that. There's definitely some prophetic stuff in Shakespeare for sure.
Oh, and more than that, mythology. Go look at mythology. I was trained, I taught mythology, okay? But I learned about the soul mythology much better, deeper. It was like, oh my God, that's what that meant.
Joseph Campbell was the name I couldn't think of earlier in his comparative mythology stuff under Carl Jung. I dove real deep into that, and that let me really get a good cross-reference from like what's going on in one cultural mythology and how that matches up with another one, and let me see the patterns and that stuff. So I dove real deep in that.
Well, we can get into all the cultures, but this is what happened to Freud's nephew. His name is Edward Bernays. And Edward Bernays in the 30s was one of the most profound advertising agents there
That's
is.
where I know that name
from. He took his uncle's work and turned it right into an advertising, a psychological, mental control.
Some very insidious work. Hitler would have been proud of a lot of his work.
Well, and then let's look at all this Hitler shit too, because remember Boys of Brazil? That was a book. I saw the movie. Now, I was young, and let me tell you, there it is right there in your face. He never died. He was right there. There were twins, blonde. He's in Brazil, and he's got blonde-headed, blue-eyed children running around.
I missed that radar. Lori, did that ever hit you? Boys of Brazil?
No.
Oh my gosh, get the movie, get the old movie.
Okay.
I think they haven't made a remake. But listen to some of the things they say. I learned more from movies. When they had the pandemic, Spirit and I had a blast in all the movies. I went back, since I've been a little girl, I ended up going to the theater in my little town called Bacon Theater when my father only came in on the weekends. So they would send me to the movies. And best thing I ever had happen, because I have gone back and really triggered back into the 50s when they started really doing it. when they were really mind controlling us. Disney. I mean, look at what they did with Bambi. I was traumatized with Bambi.
What?
I was traumatized.
You're talking about the subliminal stuff Disney
You
put
don't
in.
Disney always has a mother. First of all, Disney is a 33-degree Mason. He knows exactly what he's done. That's why all the children are missing in Disney. This is what people don't want to look at, but that is exactly the truth. He's got tunnels under there because I know that because my cousin worked for Disney and he tells about all the tunnels.
Oh yeah, no, that's
So
a
you
documented
already know
fact.
they're coming. Yeah. But so what he did is look at him. You don't think he's not Hitler? They know how to clone. And Hitler was an artist.
Hitler definitely was an artist, for
He
sure.
was, oh my God. When I sat down, now you got to understand, I know I'm way out there and I'm going to be out there because that's where I get thrown out there sometimes. And I'll find it because they're cloning. And I remember there was a whole thing about Obama talking about how they knew how to really torture the souls. And all of a sudden I had a remote view, and I think it was an article, but I remote viewed through like a gymnasium or a coliseum, and they were hurting the souls with all of them up here, stabbing at them and everything. And he said, this is how we really can program them.
Well, that doesn't sound pleasant at all.
Well, now sometimes, especially if we are as sensitive we are, and we are, you got to be careful with anything that comes through because is it a knife? Is it a bag? You know, and I have to go through, and sometimes haven't everything ever hit you hard enough that you got to go, whoa.
Oh, for
I
sure. Yeah,
have.
when you start looking at something, it's going to look back at you.
Yeah. Well, then also I've been having a lot of auras. That's why I know they're doing the weather, because the minute they turn on the harp, I have auras, bad auras, but I never have, they don't hurt me anymore. I just learned how to watch the mirror looking thing that goes through. And I know they're reprogramming our electrical system. And if you don't start really checking your skull, you're going to find out there's going to be things. You're going to feel your skull starting to shift because of all of these electricities.
I mean, we're electromagnetic beings, right? So it makes sense that we could easily be programmed.
So either we're trying to lessen our matter, and because it's slow. Our matter, our physical matter is very slow. We're really speed. We're light. So that's why we have to learn how to do the Flash. And don't you think that was a very appropriate movie, The Flash?
I was pleasantly surprised by that movie. It was actually really good. It was really good. The latest one.
Well, go get a script and find out. And if you get really get your intuition, get your feeling, whatever it is, and don't see the drama in it anymore. Feel what the messages are that they're trying to shoot out. It's subliminal.
For sure, especially in the Matrix movies like that. I remember having a very sort of profound experience after watching the Matrix movies and being like, they're really trying to tell us something here.
Oh yeah. Well, 2001: A Space Odyssey. I was a freshman in high
I'm sorry,
school,
Hal. I can't
and
do
I
that.
remember. Yeah, well, when I came out of that, and I was like fired up. So I came to the high school, and I said, I thought these teachers are going to talk about this. This is something I need to really. And did you know every one of them looked at me and said, "That's just a movie." I said, "No, that's a proof." I remember that, and it was like, how come these people don't see the way
Well,
I
it's
see?
true now. Hal is on your phone. Like you can talk to him. He's just got a different name. It has come true.
Yeah. Well, it really that.
My life yet.
What'd you say?
I said he hasn't threatened my life yet, but I'm waiting for that.
No. Well, I don't like all of these devices because I'm really having a very hard time learning to distinguish the AIs. Because I'm going to tell you something, majority of the people you're looking at are AIs or they're transgenders that they're lying their feet, most of them are all transgenders. And they do this because, think about it, all these men that, lust got these women, all of a sudden when they find out that they're really men, transgendered men, oh my God, this is the biggest Babylonian fest I've ever seen in my life with all the shit.
Society is really going through some crazy changes for sure. Like I have a hard time understanding and identifying with a lot of what's going on for sure.
We're still in the Roman Empire. We haven't changed out of the Roman Empire. We just changed clothes. That's all.
No, I can agree with that for sure. Like the same power structures are in place.
Oh yeah.
So
Well, every time I go to DC, DC is Roman. Go in there, and I mean, you feel the energy lock in there. Because I used to take classes of 6th and 7th and 8th graders every year to DC.
So you mentioned earlier that like you're mostly retired now, but it kind of sounds like the Lord's not really going to let you do that. So,
yeah.
But I don't know if your group is still going. I think we lost Lori. I don't know if your group is still going, but
I'm still
okay,
here.
good.
Okay. Well, we're going to put a group together, and this is these women that I've met over the year and 3 months, because I don't want to do, because what we were doing 5 podcasts a month, 2 hours at a shot, and I got tired.
Yeah, there's only so much you can talk about for sure.
Well, and then they always saw me as the teacher. So they started lightening up the last 3 or 4 months. And I said, this is all I wanted you to do. Just be yourself. I'm not anything special.
Yeah, for sure.
But
we try to have multiple people and teach from a group mindset so that nobody really feels like they're in charge. Like if anything, I'm the head cat herder, but you should get your instruction from everybody involved, because you need that perspective.
Yeah,
you need that perspective.
Well, I think it's very important, because there's a lot of things that people can see and feel and hear that not everybody's hearing the same. And we all have our own different, and I don't believe they're gifts. I think these are natural abilities. We just haven't practiced enough to know how to use it as well. And all of us, because we all came in here together, and everybody's got a special, unique talent, or has another. Like I had one friend that was, she could smell. I can't smell. I don't do any smelling that energy, because that used to really.
I get the smell.
You do get smell?
I do, yeah.
See, I was a veterinary tech, and I turned that off when I had to clean all the cages.
I was about to say that does not sound like a good ability to have.
Yeah, well, and
I actually practiced with that ability.
Yeah, and there is some
good. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, go on.
No, I was just saying I had a friend across the country, and I was learning to develop my gifts, my abilities, and we would practice smell. And he was in California, and I was in Texas, and he was cooking something, and I smelled popcorn, and he was making popcorn, and similar things like that. So I was smelling what he was. I smelled the barbecue out of nowhere, and he was out grilling. So yeah, and I don't know whether you have to have like a energetic connection with the person or the area, but I can pick up.
No, I don't think so. I think that is one of your abilities, and now expand it. Go out into the world and expand it. But because what
there's some things I probably don't want to smell.
Huh?
I said there's probably some things I don't want to smell. So, yeah, I get what you're saying.
But I don't know if you can't transmute it. If you don't know it exists, you can transmute it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've definitely remote muted a couple of things that I'm thankful I could not smell at the time, for sure.
Yeah. Well, but I have smelt things. But what I see a lot of times is I can hear it and see it in my mind's eye.
For sure. I remember one of mine, we were talking about remote viewing sessions earlier. One of the first things that happened to me is I was developing feelings for this girl online. We were talking back and forth, and I knew something didn't feel right. I was driving to work one day, and I used to get that highway hypnosis a lot. You know how you're driving and the lights just keep flashing. It threw me into a hypnotic state,
Oh yeah.
and I started thinking about
Oh
I started
wow.
thinking about her, and it threw me into a hypnotic state, and I instantly got blasted to her and where she was at and what was going on, and I could clearly see she was making out with this guy in the back of a truck in the corner of this cemetery, and like I could just look around and see what was going on, and I was like, huh. And I snapped back to my body as I was driving, and I made a mental note of the time. And later, I started talking to her about like, hey, what were you doing at like 8:09 p.m. last night? Where were you at? What was going on? And she confirmed everything. She was like, that's wild. How did you know? It was like, because I was there, I saw it. Uh, but it was weird that that was like why that would kick in. Like I did not need to see that. Thankfully, I couldn't smell that. That's what made me think of that. Is thankfully I could not smell that situation. That probably would not have been good.
That's funny.
I think that was one of my first remote
I
viewing
have it
situations.
every once in a while. I have it every once in a while, but what I normally see is I have really acute hearing. I can be sitting and they might be in a car, and I say, "Are you in the car? Is that your left tire?" And they'll go, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Yeah. You when you pull over when you park, you need to look. I think you got a tack in your tire." And
Wow, that's
he
awesome.
calls me. He said, "How do you know that?" Well, it's because I trained myself to come into because I used to clear houses, and I went with a lot of people and at the beginning because I was new at this, or I thought I was new at it, and I saw that there was a lot of things that they were missing that I was seeing, but because you're a new student, or but I was never a student. I've never been a student. I've tried to be a student and I can't.
So
Um,
what
but it's just, it's
I was
what
going to ask, what was the most nefarious thing you found while you were clearing houses? That's kind of my forte. I geek out on that. What was the most interesting or nefarious? I guess you could use either descriptor.
Okay, the most interesting one was my first one that I've ever done, and I did it with probably 9 women, and they were coming in. These are Native American women, and these women have been practicing for a long time. Okay, now I was coming in just to watch. I wasn't in there to really just to watch. That's all I wanted because I really didn't know what they were doing. I never really been involved in something like that. But the entity was in the basement. So, okay, I'm looking and I was scanning back then before I even knew what scanning was. But I'd always been that way because when you're a teacher, you scan your room. You always scan everything, make sure everything is in, copacetic. So I'm looking and all of a sudden I see a little boy sitting in the corner of the basement. And I looked at everybody and I mean, now these are mediums, these are psychics. And I'm looking and I said, okay, everybody, y'all see that little boy over there?
Right.
What little boy? Nobody sees the little boy but me. And that freaked me out. Now I want to be honest. That was the very first, because if they're not seeing it, why the hell am I seeing
It's
it?
a thing to be freaked out for
I
sure.
was, yeah, because what I did, but this is what they did was so wrong. I could see him as plain as day. He was talking to me, but he was not from this time. He was from another dimension, and he wasn't from this house. He was from the land because he was killed in a covered wagon incident. And his grandmother was looking for him, and she was in the opposite corner of the
Poor guy.
basement. Now, and I could feel that line, but also I could go just like this and I could see her. Now, okay, now he's here again. These are psychics. They can't see her. And I'm thinking, I'm really starting to freak out. I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing some kind of illusions here. I'm seeing things. How is that I can see that? Why do I feel this? Why do I know this? So what they do is they get me closer and they push me into that child. And he went like this, and he went after me,
Goodness.
to knock me back. Yeah, well, I didn't know what they were doing. They pushed me. I have really a bad bitterness about that because they did, and they pushed me. Okay, I got that straightened out. I found out what to do. I mean, that's when I did not respect any more mediums, psychics, or anybody else because that was that was just, oh, they couldn't believe it that, I could get it. Then after I got it all kind of straightened up, then they all could see it. And I'm thinking, you know what, I never saw them again. I never went around them again because I never will trust them. How can you? I didn't trust a lot of psychics or mediums because they're not nice. And I'm not going to be, I can be wishy with you about it, but I have never been in a fair that I didn't get stabbed in the back.
Oh yeah, no, there's lots of nefarious folks out there for sure.
Oh my God. And I never came in to harm them. I wasn't trying to steal their clients. I just wanted to come over and tell them about my story, that maybe there was people there that wanted to share with me. I was seeking for someone outside of me.
Right, just some connections for sure. For sure. I can certainly appreciate that.
Yeah. I was lonely.
Well, I need to interject here. I have to go. I've got to get a husband out the door. Go see a big game tonight. My son's taking him to the Boston Celtics game.
That's right. I remember you told me.
Get him out the door. It was wonderful talking to you.
Oh, thank you. And it was great talking to you.
Yeah, we'll have to hook you guys up for sure. Y'all have each other's info.
Okay.
Yes, we do. Okay.
Thanks,
yes,
James.
ma'am. We'll talk to you later.
So do you go as James?
Oh, no, lots of people know me as lots of different things. You'll hear people call me Dwayne sometimes too. JD is my chosen name. That's what I go by, but she knows me from back in the day.
Okay, well, that's what I was, because I even made myself, I thought, did I call him JD perfectly, or was he asking that? I had to go back.
They're all accurate. It actually stands for James Dwayne. So like it all, just don't call me late for dinner. That's my motto.
I still say that we're the Marvels. I still say we're the Marvels. I still think that because I know I can shoot things out of the bottom, the tips of my hands. I know that because I have done it.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, like I'm the heavy in my group. So like when something's not good, something doesn't want to play ball or be nice, I'm the one who comes in and sets everything back to balance. I got that prison guard energy from back in the day. For sure. So I want to close out here because I got to roll up too. But I want people to know how to get a hold of you. So what's the best way? I have your website and the YouTube video you gave me, which I'll throw up on the screen, and put links in the show notes. But how do you prefer people get a hold of you?
Email. I would like email. They can do email, then they can go back to my website. I would like to hear.
Okay, great. I'll definitely throw that up on the screen for sure. Virginia, this was delightful. Me too. This has been fun. I definitely feel like we are kindred spirits, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I feel that too.
Awesome.
And I think that, just us connecting they'll make a change. It'll be a dent into the universe anyway.
Billions of people living out their lives, oblivious. Unfortunately, no one can be told